Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to another video. And today I'm over by my TBR shelf to decide what I'm going to be reading in April. So first off, I'm sorry if my voice sounds quite scratchy. I've had quite a bad cold the past week, and I feel much better now, but now that I'm talking to a camera, I feel like my voice does not sound better. So anyway, but yes, I wanted to do my April TBR today and plan out my reading for April. I actually got through the vast majority of my March TBR, which was exciting. So maybe I'll be really ambitious in April and then not get through it, but we'll see. I think I should hopefully have quite a lot of time to read in April. There's some bank holidays and I've got a few days off work. So I'm hopeful I will get through quite a lot of books. One thing I'll definitely be reading is A Bitter Remedy by Alice Hawkins. This is the pick for my historical fiction book club that I run over on my Patreon. I've had this on my shelves for ages and I think it'll be an interesting read. It is a murder mystery, historical murder mystery set in the 1880s in Oxford University, I think it's Oxford University. Jesus College. I think it's Oxford. I suppose it could be Cambridge. I'm looking forward to this one. It's been on my shelves for ages, and I think it'll be an interesting read. I've just realised that it says the Oxford Mysteries on the cover. Probably should have spotted that, but there we go. Looking forward to that. And then I will also definitely be reading The Woodlanders by Thomas Hardy, which is the book for Jen the Librarian's Thomas Hardy Readalong in April, which I'm so excited to reread. This is one of my absolute favourite Thomas Hardys. I've read it twice before. I'm really looking forward to reading it again. It is one of my absolute favourites. I won't be reading this physical book. I will be listening to an audiobook version of it. I've been listening to all of Thomas Hardy's works on audiobook, which I'm really enjoying, but I do have a physical copy to show you for a change because I own a physical copy of this because it's one of my favourite Thomas Hardys, and yeah, looking forward to this a lot. And then another Victorian book I will definitely be reading in April is John Caldergate by Anthony Trollope, my final Anthony Trollope, which I'm looking forward to reading in April. I'm going to start reading this at the beginning of April. I'm kind of hoping I'll read quite a lot of it over the bank holiday, the Easter bank holiday weekend, which I think will be really nice. As you can see, I have a physical edition of John Caldergate, because this is my final Anthony Trollope book to read out of the 47 that he wrote. I've narrowed the other 46. If you're new to this channel, I've been working on his books for a while. Now that I have only the 47th book left to go, I thought I didn't want to just read it on my Kindle. Like, I've read a lot of Anthony Trollope books on my Kindle, which is fine, but I was like, for my final Anthony Trollope book, I feel like I want to make it like the best Anthony Trollope reading experience. So I thought I would get myself a physical copy, and I looked on Oxfam's online shop and found a old Folio Society edition of John Caldergate. So this is from, I think probably is it the 90s? Yeah, so in the 90s and 80s, the Folio Society produced a lot of really beautiful Anthony Trollope editions, and Anthony Trollope was obviously having a bit of a resurgence in the 90s that has definitely died away, so that in charity shops and secondhand bookshops around the UK you will basically always find one of these Folio Society editions of an Anthony Trollope book. I guess also because he wrote so many and lots of people had like the full collections, and then if they went to the charity shop or got spread out or whatever. Anyway, so I got my hands on a lovely edition of John Caldergate, which I'm very excited for. I actually know like next to nothing about John Caldergate as a book, and that is fine. That's how I want to go into this. I'm just very excited to start reading this in the next couple of days. Shall we have a look at the first sentence? Perhaps it was more the fault of Daniel Caldergate, the father, than of his son John Caldergate, that the two could not live together in comfort in the days of the young man's early youth. I'm intrigued. I think it's going to be great. I hope it's going to be great because it's my final Anthony Trollope book, so I feel like it needs to be great. I feel like I'm psyching myself up to love this book a lot, which I probably will because it's Anthony Trollope, but you know. So I'm definitely going to read those three, and then there are a couple of other reading challenges or reading prompts things that I've been taking part in. One is the Read Good challenge run by Ben Reads Good, which I have actually managed to tick off 3 months in a row. I mean, February's book I finished off at the beginning of March, but you know, it's fine. So April's prompt for that is to read a book that has been nominated for the Women's Prize, not necessarily this year, but in the past, whatever. So I have two options, I think, on my shelves for this. I have I'm gonna really disrupt my fairy lights now, aren't I? So this is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This was shortlisted for the Women's Prize in 2021, and I've heard really good things about this. I'm mostly keen to read this because I absolutely love Passing by Nella Larson, which is a wonderful classic from the 1920s, and The Vanishing Half is sort of inspired by Passing. Don't know that it's exactly a retelling, but it is loosely inspired by Passing, and I love that novel so much that I thought I would really like this, and it's been on my shelves for a while now, so I feel like this would be a good month to read it. And yeah, I think this would be a really interesting read. Do I have one other book on my shelves that I could read though for this, which is, oh, I'm really going to disrupt everything here, aren't I? Heart the Lover by Lily King, which is on the Women's Prize for Fiction long list this year. So it would feel kind of like a good time to read it. So I didn't get this book for myself. This is a proof copy that I picked up at a publisher event run by Canongate, and it was in like a gift bag, and I have a feeling that I'm not going to like this book. Maybe just because I hate this cover. I just think this cover is so ugly. And that's just putting me off the book. Anyway, I just have a feeling that I'm not going to like this, but I don't really know why, except for maybe my dislike of the cover. Because it's very short, I do feel like it's worth giving a try. So as it is very short, I might just read this in April and see. And it kind of would be nice to give it a try while the Women's Prize long list is being spoken about. There aren't a ton of books from the Women's Prize long list this year that like massively jump out at me, but I do obviously own this. It may be that I don't love it and I may DNF it, but you know, it's here for now. And then something else I have been taking part in this year is the TBR Reading Spa, run by Jen the Librarian and Kerry Books, which I'm really enjoying so far. I'll put the flowchart up on the screen so you can see, but basically there's sort of like questions to lead you to picking a book from your TBR every month. So what's your favourite type of book content to watch? Book hauls, reading vlogs, or wrap-ups? Probably wrap-ups. I mean, my favourite is probably actually more like themed recommendations, but I feel like they are more similar to wrap-ups. But of the three, probably wrap-ups. Do you share book reviews online? Well, I guess that is what I'm doing on YouTube, so yes. Read a book that you've DNF'd or have been putting off. So I'm not a massive DNF'er. I am trying to DNF a bit more, but I also feel like if I DNF a book, because I so rarely DNF, if I DNF a book, that means I really knew it wasn't for me and will never go back to it. But there are many books I have been putting off that have been on my TBR for a while. Here to here, so from the Fellowship of Puzzlemakers, you can't actually see that on screen, from one book that is just off the camera to the end of here are all the books that have been on my TBR for the longest. What do I think has actually been on my TBR for the longest out of all of these? It might be this one. This is More Than You'll Ever Know by Katie Gutierrez. This is a proof copy of a book that came out in 2022, and this is published by Penguin Michael Joseph, who are my publishers. And in 2022, like the year before my debut novel came out, I went to the publisher's office for a meeting, and they were like, "Would you like any proofs? Take some proofs." And I just like got really excited and took a lot of proofs. And I have read the rest of them now, but I still have not read More Than You'll Ever Know. So I think this is a novel about a true crime writer who gets involved in some way in a crime that is relating to her personally, and I think this might be for me or it might not be for me. I don't really know why I haven't been gravitating towards this, but this has been on my shelves for a few years and I haven't picked it up, so maybe I will read this in April. Then there's also a readathon taking place in April that I would quite like to have a nod towards in my reading, and that is People April, that is hosted by Roz from Scattered Landing About the Books, Brian from Bookish, and Hannah's Books. People April is all about reading books about real people, and I have a non-fiction book on my shelf that would work for this. I am pretty sure I put this on my TBR for People April last year and didn't read it, so I should probably read it. This is Avoidance, Drugs, Heartbreak and Dogs by Jordan Stevens. He was part of Rizzle Kicks, if you have heard of Rizzle Kicks, remember Rizzle Kicks. Anyway, I picked this up at a Canongate publisher event. I got the Lily King book at last year's Canongate event, and I got this book at Canongate's event in 2024. And to be honest, this isn't really the kind of thing that I would usually read. I don't really tend to read memoirs very much. But I remember Jordan Stevens talking at the event, and he just sounded really interesting. And I just feel like everything he had to say about mental health and masculinity and sort of self-awareness all sounded really interesting, and I really wanted to read the book and I just haven't, and I would like to do so. So maybe I'll read this in April, we'll see. As I said, I'm being a bit ambitious with my TBR in April because I did get quite a lot read in March, and because I know that I have quite a bit of reading time in April, I hope. Okay. And then I'm also currently reading along with the Walter Scott Prize for historical fiction, which I'm really enjoying. I've read only 2 books from the long list so far, so I want to read more for the long list in April, and there are quite a few that are on my list. So I think my next 2 will probably be The Matchbox Girl by Alice Jolly and Helm by Sarah Hall. I need to shift into focus here. Let me hold them both together. I am excited to read both of these. I think they both sound really interesting. The shortlist for the Walter Scott Prize will probably be announced, I guess, halfway through April, so I would quite like to get through a little bit more of the long list before then. So Helm and The Matchbox Girl are probably pretty high up on my list after or at the same time as John Caldergate, I guess. Those will be my next 2 Walter Scott Prize reads, and then I've also got 2 that I've reserved at the library that I need to go and collect. One of which is The Two Roberts by Damien Barr, which I just have a feeling I'm really going to like. And then the other is Venetian Vespers by John Bownville, which I'm hoping to buddy read with Shelley Swearingen, actually, which I think will be quite interesting because we have a very different taste. By which I mean, we both really love historical fiction, but I feel like what we like in historical fiction is very different. And she much prefers the more sort of like literary end. And there are quite a lot of books that we have like opposite opinions on. So I think it'd be quite interesting if we could do a buddy read together. Venetian Vespers was not a book that like immediately sprung out to me from the Walter Scott Prize long list, but a lot of people have said they really liked it, so I'm curious to give it a try. I don't know whether I'll end up reading all 4 of these physically. I might end up listening to one on audiobook, but I will have a think and see how I go. I realise I haven't really spoken about what those 4 books are about, but I will leave down below the video I made reacting to the Walter Scott Prize long list, where I talk about that in more detail. And then I realised that I haven't got many audiobooks on my TBR, and I do have one book that I'm hoping my audiobook hold will come in for quite soon, and that is The Battle Drum by Sarah El-Arifi. So this is the second in a fantasy series. I read the first, The Final Strife, probably about 2 or 3 years ago now, and I loved it so much, and I just don't know why I haven't continued with the series. So I thought that I would finally do so, and I listened to The Final Strife on audiobook, which I really enjoyed. So I thought I would try and listen to The Battle Drum on audiobook. I have very high hopes for it, considering how much I loved the first in the series. The series, I think it's called The Ending Fire, just has like amazing world building, like fantastic world building, and just stellar characterization. Like I just thought the characterization in The Final Strife was just amazing. So yeah, I'm very excited for The Battle Drum. There's obviously quite a lot of books to be getting on with, but as I said, I think I'm going to be a bit ambitious about my April reading because I think I should have quite a bit of time to read in April. So I thought I would add some more books to this TBR because, you know, why not? I do like an over-ambitious TBR. I had the idea that in 2026 I would try and have like a monthly theme. That has gone well some months and less well other months. Is that true? No, it just mostly hasn't gone well so far. I will return to my little board of monthly theme ideas, and I think maybe I'm going to go for proof copies as my monthly theme in April, because I do actually already have quite a lot of proof copies in this stack, don't I? Because all of these 3 are proof copies of books that already came out quite a while ago, and I have a lot of proof copies on my shelves of books that already came out quite a while ago. I do try and read proofs before they're published, but I often don't manage to do that, and usually when I accept proofs for review I say I don't think I'm going to be able to read it before it's published, but if you have lots of spare, send me one anyway. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. And obviously like these 3 I didn't get sent for review specifically. I like picked them up from a publisher at an event. And there are a few others on my shelves like that, either that I was sent and never got to, or that I got at events, and it would be nice to try and read some of them. So maybe I will try and read some of them in April. So here we have the very top of my stack of books that have been in my TBR for ages. The Undoing of Violet Claiborne by Emily Critchley, which came out in 2024. And I think this is probably actually very up my street. This is a sort of gothic mystery historical, I think it's 1950s, no, 1930s. And I kind of know that I'm going to like this because this is published by Manila Press, and the editor there, who was the publisher of this book, I know that I have like very similar bookish taste to her because I used to work at Manila Press and I used to be her assistant. I don't just like know the specific taste of editors off by heart. Anyway, I used to work for the editor who acquired this book and who published this book, and I know that her taste is very similar to my taste, so I kind of know I will like this, and I don't know why I haven't read it yet. It's just been on my shelves for ages, and I should read it, so maybe I will do that in April. And I also have up here a proof copy I picked up at Harrogate Crime Writing Festival in the summer, called Vivian Dies Again, by C.E. Holst, which I thought sounded really fun. This came out in January this year. I haven't seen much about it since it came out, but it is a time loop murder mystery, and Vivian has to solve her own murder as she is continually killed in all the time loops. And I think this could be really interesting. And after having read The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle last year, which I liked in many ways, but I also felt like the premise overshadowed the mystery, and therefore the mystery was slightly less satisfying. So I'm kind of like looking for a time loop murder mystery that really, really works for me, and maybe this will be it. And then I have 2 other proof copies here, and then that's definitely enough books, because it's not just actually the amount of books, it's the thickness of the books, because they're really like starting to pile up on my tower, and I don't even think I had put the Walter Scott Prize ones on my pile. So here I have The Three by Kelsey O'Brien. This book came out in January. This was on my February TBR and I didn't get to it actually. And it's quite a thin book, but it sounded really, really interesting. So this book is set in the Georgian period in the late 18th century and looks at the love triangle between a corset maker, his lover, and his lover's wife. And this just sounded like absolutely the kind of historical fiction I would love. So I feel like I'm really gonna like this. Yeah, I feel like I have a lot of books on my April TBR that I'm very excited for actually. And another one I'm very excited for is this. This is Sisters in Yellow by Meiko Kawakami, translated from the Japanese by Laurel Taylor and Hitomi Yoshio. So this is Meiko Kawakami's new novel, which came out in March. I've only just got this proof copy. My agent sent me a copy because wildly my literary agent is also Meiko Kawakami's literary agent, like her English language literary agent, which is very cool. So yeah, I'm really excited to read Sisters in Yellow because I love Meiko Kawakami. I've loved everything I've read by her so far. I haven't read everything of hers. I still need to read Breasts and Eggs, but the 3 things I've read by her I just absolutely loved. She's a wonderful Japanese writer who just, yeah, writes such powerful, really emotional fiction, and everything I've read by her has just like hit me really hard, and really, really stayed with me. And I'm excited for Sisters in Yellow. And this is, I think, the story of a friendship between a 15-year-old girl and a slightly older girl, and together they set up a bar called Lemon, but I guess things are going to go wrong. I'm excited for this. It's quite a lot longer than the things I've read by Meiko Kawakami before, so I'm kind of interested to see how her plotting is in a longer novel. I think Breasts and Eggs is longer as well, but again, I haven't read that. So yeah, very excited to read this. Will I read it in April? We'll see. The stack is now visible, which tells you that I've got too many books on my TBR. Those are some books that I might read in April. As I always say when I do TBR videos, I'm not going to get through all of these, but I will hopefully get through some of them. And I feel like because I will have quite a bit of time to read in April, I'm hoping I will get through more of these than usual. I definitely have a few days off work that I should be able to dedicate just to reading, which would be very nice. Yeah, so hopefully I'll get through quite a lot of these and I'll see how I go. So that is all for now. Do let me know what you're going to be reading in April. Have you got any reading plans that you're excited for? Have you read any of the books on my TBR? Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.